This is Kent Hovind. He's about to tell us about how all of science is a lie and evolution is fake and there are lies in textbooks and everything else. It's insane. I want to listen to it and break down the lies as we go. He tells so many lies, it's ridiculous. Let's give this a listen.
No known evidence to support the evolution theory, except things that have been proven wrong a long time ago. If real evidence exists for this evolution theory, I would like to see it. We've been offering $250,000 for real scientific evidence for evolution. We've had...
Oh my God, I remember this claim. Wait a minute. Wait. There's a whole drama thing about this that I forgot about. The challenge itself was a fraud. Hovind's challenge wasn't asking for proof of biological evolution. It demanded proof of cosmology, astrophysics, abiogenesis, and biological evolution, all without God. The 5 things he required proof of were: time, space, and matter came into existence by themselves, planets and stars formed from space dust, matter created life by itself, early life forms learned to reproduce themselves, and major changes occurred between diverse life forms. Only 4 and 5 are actually evolution. The rest are completely different fields of science. The rigged conditions. Hovind demanded proof beyond a reasonable doubt that evolution was the only possible way phenomena could exist, an impossible standard since you can't prove a negative or rule out all alternatives. The judges were anonymous and handpicked by Hovind himself. Hovind would filter all evidence before it reached his committee, deciding which they could even see. There's evidence a committee didn't even exist, and advertisements seeking them got no responses. And here's the drama when people actually tried. Multiple scientists attempted to collect and got a runaround. Kevin Henke is a geologist. When Henke contacted Hovind, he was told he'd have to recreate the actual Big Bang in a laboratory, not a model or simulation, to win. One of Hovind's staff admitted the challenge was technically unfeasible and financially impossible. He then offered $2,000, not $250,000, if Henke could prove dogs and bananas share a common ancestor, but backed out when Henke insisted the judges be unbiased. Lenny Flank got only non-answers when asking Hovind to clarify terms. Ian Wood sent evidence and found Hovind lied about submitting it to judges. Adam Kisby met the challenge on Hovind's own terms, but Hovind dismissed it without valid objections. Here's why it was legally unenforceable. As analyzed by attorneys, the challenge was constructed to be legally impossible to collect on. The conditions were logically impossible to fulfill, and courts wouldn't remake them to be attainable. Challenges judged by the offerer are legally unenforceable. The offerer can simply say not satisfied and nobody can collect. The money probably never existed. Even other creationists were embarrassed. Answers in Genesis, a major creationist organization, criticized the challenge and said they would prefer that creationists refrain from gimmicks like this. The challenge was quietly removed. In 2007, Creation Science Evangelism removed the offer from its website. Eric Hovind, Kent's son, has since discontinued the offer and no longer mentions it on any Hovind-related website. The bottom line is it was never a genuine offer. It was all nonsense all along.
That offer for over 10 years. There isn't any, okay? Give an example. Suppose I had a theory that the moon is made of green cheese. Now, that's a dumb theory, I know. But hey, it's okay to have a dumb theory. There are no laws against dumb theories.
No, there are no laws, but it's not okay. Having dumb conspiracy theories is not okay. You shouldn't hold dumb conspiracies. And that's exactly what Kent Hovind is laying down for us, a dumb conspiracy theory that doesn't make any fucking sense, and he knows that.
But then suppose I started teaching my students, hey kids, did you know NASA proved my theory in 1973 when they went there on a secret mission and drilled a hole and found the moon is made of green cheese?
That is exactly the type of shit that Hovind is doing right now. I keep wanting to say Copeland for some reason.
Oh, now hold on a minute. It's okay to have a dumb theory. It's not okay to lie about my evidence for my theory, okay? It is worse for me to get paid by tax dollars while I lie about my theory.
Oh, he had this whole hang-up about tax dollars, which led to prison for 10 years.
So I don't mind if they want to have a theory that we came from a rock. That doesn't bother me. It does bother me that they want to lie to the students about their evidence, and it really bothers me that I have to pay their salary while they lie to spread their theory.
You're not paying their salary, Kent. I get so sick of this sovereign citizen-like viewpoint on taxes. You are not paying teachers' salary. You know who's paying the teacher's salary? The government is. And you know who the government is getting money from? You. That doesn't mean you are paying the teachers. When it leaves my pocket and goes into the government's coffers, it is now their money. Now, you can complain all you want about how the government spends their money, but it's not your fucking money. It's the government's money.
So here's some of the evidence they use for evolution theory. They say, we have evidence from fossils. I say, guys, you got to be kidding. No fossil counts as evidence for evolution. None. If you find bones in the dirt, all you know is it died. You don't know it had any kids. No fossil could count as evidence for evolution.
Oh, please, dude, really?
None. They say we have evidence from structure, from molecular biology, from development. Well, let's talk about a few of these. Evolution is dead. The theory is defunct. There is no evidence to support it, but some of the followers are pretty dedicated, and they're having a hard time letting it go. They'll even lie to you to make you think everything's fine.
Listen to him. What he's talking about here. Evolution is not defunct or dead. It is 100% real and legitimate. It has been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt over the years. But you know what has been debunked? Creationism. Young Earth creationism was debunked a long time ago. You know, I don't know if we were created by a god. Maybe, I have no fucking clue. But I do know for a fact that we were not created by a god 6,000 years ago, and that Jesus walked on water and turned water into wine and all these other miracles and everything else, because it goes against the laws of physics. It's fucking nonsense. I can unequivocally, beyond a shadow of a doubt, tell you, yes, the God of the Bible is made up. The one where he, commits all of these atrocities and then orders people to, perform miracles and do all this other crazy shit. That's not real. I can say that with complete confidence. It's not real. Kent Hovind just cannot accept reality and is projecting his lies and insecurity onto everybody around him.
They say, wow, look at that evolution theory. It's perfectly fine. There's no challenge to evolution. Look, he never looked better. Pulse and heart rate look good. No, I'm sorry. He's a goner, okay? Don't be the last one off the boat. It is sinking. Evolution's based on two faulty assumptions. Number one, they say mutations make something new. That's never been observed.
Yes, it has. It's been explicitly observed, even recently.
Number two, natural selection makes it survive and take over the population. Evolution is actually a religion of death.
I'm sorry, natural selection, one more time?
They say mutations make something new. That's never been observed. Number two, natural selection makes it survive and take over the population.
Right, yes.
Evolution is actually a religion of death. In order for evolution to work, one animal evolves a little better than the rest. What must happen to the rest of them to make this thing work?
Well, first of all, it's not a religion. And second, yes, death is a necessary part of evolution in our current kind of setup, in the way that it currently works. Yes. So, I don't understand. Why the fuck do you care about this? And you know what? That's not necessarily true either. Jellyfish. Well, I guess there are some immortal species, like jellyfish are immortal, some of them. But I guess death is necessary, like a necessary component for natural selection. Like, the guy understands how this works, and he's just setting out to lie to people. This seriously blows me away.
They gotta die, or else the new improved gene is swamped back into the gene code. The question is so simple and profound. Did man bring death into the world like the Bible says? Or did death bring man into the world like evolution says?
Oh, yeah, okay. So you see what he's doing here. He's making it out like evolution is the antithesis of the Bible. Again, they can both be true, that there's a God that created everything, sparked it all into being or whatever. And also, it can be true that evolution is a fact. He's trying to draw this hard line between Christians and people who accept science as the fact that it is, the scientific consensus as the fact that it is.
Somebody is wrong. Textbook says there are mutations, and they are the original source of variation in populations. I agree, mutations happen, no question. But mutations do not produce any evolution. Mutations are scrambling up existing genetic code. They're not making anything new. Here's a 5-legged bull. That's a mutant. There's no new information added. He already had the information on how to make a leg. It just made one in the wrong place, that's all. It's not new information. It is scrambled information. Here's a short-legged sheep. Again, no new information. And by the way, that's not beneficial.
Again, it doesn't matter if it's beneficial. Beneficial is not a necessary component here.
The first one the wolf is going to catch, right? Go, boys, go. Here comes the wolf. Brrr. Oh, Herman didn't make it. There's a 2-headed lamb. That's a mutant. It's not beneficial. 2-headed turtle.
It's not beneficial, but they're mutations, right? I thought you said that new information is not gained. Didn't he literally just say, like, for example, if somebody loses their arms, that's a mutation, but it's not gaining information, you're losing information. First of all, that's not how genetics works at all. And second, you've got an example of things gaining things here. This would be like gaining additional arms. That's additional stuff. The pillars of evolution rest upon gene duplication, which means like when you have a kid, multiple genes are like replicated and redundancies are built in. Like you have 6 genes for blue eyes. So gene duplication, mutations, genetic mutation, where it changes just a little bit and now you have amber eyes instead of blue. And finally, natural selection, filtering out the useful traits through, different forms of selection, sexual selection, natural selection, artificial selection, or whatever and whatever other types. So he's just completely full of shit here.
Mutant, not ninja, but it's mutant. Okay, now
well, we're getting there. One day we'll have mutant Ninja Turtles, and what are you going to say then?
Going to freeze first winter because nobody makes a double-neck turtleneck sweater.
Okay, clever.
He's just not going to make it. Now, scrambling up the letters of the word Christmas will get you all sorts of different words, but it will never get you Xerox, zebra, or queen. The letters aren't available.
Okay.
This textbook shows the kids a 4-wing fly, which, by the way, cannot fly. And it says, boys and girls, normal fruit flies have 2 wings. This mutant has 4. This rare mutation, like most mutations, is harmful. Then it says, beneficial mutations are the raw material for natural selection. Now, hold on a minute. Why don't they show us an example of a beneficial mutation? Why did they tell us about the good ones and not show us a picture of a good one?
I mean, blue eyes. There you go. Blue eyes is a good mutation. Well, it's not a harmful mutation, I suppose you could say. Good mutations. Let's think about this for a second. There are a billion examples of good mutations. Our eyes have the ability to see things and adjust in the dark. We can adjust our vision in the dark. There you go. There's a beneficial genetic mutation. There are like a billion of these.
You know why they didn't show a picture of a good mutation? Because nobody's ever seen one.
You got to be kidding me with this.
There's never been one beneficial mutation. I said that in a debate one time, and this atheist said, Hovind, you're lying. He said, I can name a beneficial mutation right now. He said, people in Africa that get sickle cell anemia are less likely to get malaria.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's true.
I said, that's brilliant, sir. That's like saying if you cut off your legs, you can't get athlete's foot. Mm-hmm.
No, why are you showing us a picture of a dude with no legs? That's disturbing. No, sickle cell anemia happens when your hemoglobin, the little blood cells that like carry oxygen, like oxygen attaches to the little pieces. Malaria also attaches to the hemoglobin. And instead of being like a coin-shaped type of thing with an indent in the center, the hemoglobin is now shaped like a sickle. And it does lead to less oxygen intake, that's true. And that is a problem in some circumstances, but it can be treated. But it leads to malaria. You are completely immune from malaria. Malaria cannot affect you negatively if you have this mutation, which is incredibly important in these African countries. So what he's saying here is just a flat-out lie. It is beneficial. It can be detrimental in some environments, but it's beneficial for those people because fewer of them died of a lack of oxygen than from malaria.
They're both negative, okay? Then they say evolution and natural selection go together. This one says natural selection causes evolution. That's a lie. Natural selection selects. It doesn't create anything. Natural selection is not a creative force, okay?
Right, okay. I don't understand what the hang-up is here.
Natural selection may be a stabilizing force, but is not a creative force. Anybody with half a brain can figure that out. Natural selection cannot create any properties. It can only select. This textbook says, evolution by natural selection had occurred in just 1 year. Oh, they're lying. It says natural selection can lead to evolution. That's a lie. Natural selection selects. It doesn't create a thing. If you worked in a factory that made cars, how far is the Saturn plant from here?
Did somebody say that natural selection creates? I'm lost. Did I miss something?
Pretty close, isn't it? How many of you anybody here work in the Saturn plant? Okay. Suppose you worked in quality control. Your job was to check the car when they got done building it, kick the tires, slam the doors, and drive it around, see if it runs. If you caught every single mistake, they don't, by the way, but if you did, okay, how long would it take that quality control process to change the car to an airplane?
I'm not sure what he's talking about.
You say, oh,
I mean, you can replace one piece at a time and end up with an airplane, of course. Is that what you're saying? Like, I'm so confused about what his point is here.
and quality control can't change it to something else. Oh, I know. Only design engineers can change it. And God's natural selection is a quality control that will never change it to a different animal. It'll just make sure you get a good animal, that's all. They keep talking about survival of the fittest. Well, I agree, but that doesn't explain arrival of the fittest. And even survival of the fittest is pretty shaky. It's what's called a tautology, a sentence.
Wait, I'm sorry. Survival of the fittest does not explain the arrival of the fittest? What are you talking about? A cat and a mouse are in a constant battle with each other. The mouse gets faster and faster, and the cat gets faster and faster too. One of them is going to outcompete the other. I don't understand what point he's trying to make here. And also, survival of the fittest is a deprecated term that was used like 200 years ago or something. It's really not survival of the fittest that determines which creatures survive. It's survival of, let me try to phrase this. It's survival of the most adaptable. Survival of the ones that are best suited for their environment. It's not, like, the word fittest kind of carries a connotation of strength. It has nothing to do with strength. And I bet he's going to capitalize on that, right?
Tautology, a sentence that means nothing. I'll show you. If you say, Professor, why did it survive? It's, oh, because it's the fittest, survival of the fittest. How do you know it's the fittest?
Because it's survived this whole time and it perfectly fits its little niche. Apex predators and all that. Just a reminder, I would really appreciate it if you guys checked out my Patreon. If you're not going to donate, you don't have to, but follow me there at the very least. owenmorgan.com/Patreon. Just in case something happens with the government or whatever. It would be really good if you had some way to connect with me and my content. I'm really concerned about that. And maybe you should consider that for other creators too.
Because it survived. How else can you tell? Oh, I see.
Like, I can't believe that the guy is denying natural selection. Like, what? You're denying natural selection? What a wild thing to do.
Look, if a whale goes through a school of fish and eats 80% of them, it's not survival of the fittest. It's actually survival of the luckiest.
No. There are genetic mutations that exist in certain fish that some may make them faster. Some may be a little bit stronger than the other fish and may be able to swim against the current a little bit better, just a little bit. Doesn't have to be much. And they might even be just on the outer edges of where, the current is being sucked into the whale's mouth. That's how all of this works. Like, I'm kind of blown away by the fact that he's even arguing against natural selection. I thought he said that microevolution exists. That requires natural selection.
That's what's really going on out there. But some of these scientists have the ability to make amazing observations and still come to the wrong conclusion. One day, a bunch of scientists were going to see how far a frog could jump. They put their big old frog down there and said, jump, frog, jump. That frog jumped 80 inches. They brought the frog back, cut off one leg. Said, jump, frog, jump. He only jumped 70. They brought him back, cut off another leg. Said, jump, frog, jump.
Well, evolution isn't cutting legs off. It's not even removing legs or removing things. That's the hang up here. That's the problem. I don't think he believes this at all, truthfully. But assuming he did, he's not accepting the fact that some mutations are beneficial. That's just what it is.
He went 60. They brought him back, cut off another leg. Said, jump, frog, jump. He jumped 50 inches. They brought the frog back, cut off his last leg, and said, jump, frog, jump. They expected he might go maybe, 40 based on the data. Actual jump was 0. The frog didn't move. They yelled louder, jump, frog. The frog never moved. The scientists were baffled.
I mean, obviously not. This is just complete nonsense.
They tried the experiment again. New frog. Got the same results every time. So the brilliant scientists put their data together and said, you know what, folks, the frog jumped less as the legs were removed. Hey, that's a good observation. They got it right on the head. Then they said, so we must conclude that a frog with no legs goes deaf.
This is, of course, completely made up. I mean, he's pretending that this is some kind of a real case that happened, and it's obviously not.
Bad conclusion. It's possible to have a good observation and still come to the wrong conclusion, you know. That's what they did with the fruit flies. They put them flies in the laboratory, they nuked them, microwaved them, x-rayed them. They did all kinds of mean things to those flies, and they got
Oh, this is fascinating. I know about this. A lot about this, actually.
some weird-looking baby flies. They got flies with curled wings. They fly around, bzz, 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 couldn't go anywhere. They got flies with no wings at all.
All right, let me tell you the story of the fruit flies. In 1923, maybe? I don't remember the exact year. Not early 1920s, I believe, or the 1910s. There's a guy named Thomas Hunt Morgan. He worked at Columbia University. And at the time, there was this big eugenics push, not just in Germany, but it was like a push to get people to accept eugenics. It was just a worldwide phenomenon. Everybody was super into eugenics. And Thomas Hunt Morgan was a professor that was hired to study eugenics, to validate it as a legitimate scientific theory or whatever. And he had this lab full of fruit flies, and some of them had short wings, some had long wings, some had red eyes, some had black eyes. You know, they were all different. And he starts experimenting with fruit flies by hitting them with radiation to validate the belief in eugenics as a concept. And he eventually quit because eugenics doesn't work that way, in all seriousness. Like, people's understanding of how evolution worked warped their idea of how eugenics worked and led to complete nonsense. He quit his job he quit his job at Columbia completely because eugenics was so completely and totally debunked by what he was studying. And they continued on to try to study it and validate it, but it was nonsense from the start. Eugenics was. Things are just too complex for it to work that way. It just does not work that way, plain and simple. But aside from that, the fruit fly experiment was flawed anyway, because they were trying to force evolution instantaneously through irradiating these fruit flies. Now, you can force evolution to try, or genetic mutations or whatever, to try to study things, and they do that all the time with viruses to create new strains of whatever, new strains of the flu or whatever, to try to create a vaccine for it before it appears. But the bottom line is, this stuff about the fruit fly experiment is just propaganda used by creationists.
What do you call that? A crawl or a walk? Can't fly. They raised all these mutated flies in the laboratory and said, you know what, folks, fruit flies refuse to become anything but fruit flies. Well, duh. So they said all mutations produce flies that were inferior to the original fly. Good observation. They said, so we must conclude that flies have evolved as far as they can go. Oh, bad conclusion.
Wait, I don't remember them coming to this conclusion.
Maybe you could conclude that God made them right to begin with, and all you're doing is messing them up in your laboratory. They were doing fine till you guys got a hold of them. Yeah. Then they say evolution's as fit as ever. Yep, fruit flies in the north have wings 4% larger than flies in the south. Well,
okay, I don't know. What's his point? So what?
That proves something to somebody somewhere, I'm sure. But it's still a fly, okay?
Okay, I don't understand what point he's trying to make here.
Then they tell the kids, the peppered moth is proof for evolution. They counted the moths on the trees and found it was 95% light colored and 5% black. Then they burned coal in the factories and the trees turned black. And they counted the moths again. It was only 5% light and 95% black. The problem is the entire story is a lie. They glued dead moths to the tree to take that picture for your kid's textbook.
Okay, let's find out. Let's see if we can get some info on this. Okay, the peppered moth experiments. Hovind is distorting what actually happened. Peppered moths exist in light and dark forms. During the Industrial Revolution in England, dark moths became more common. They blended in with soot-covered trees. When pollution decreased, light moths became common again. Some textbook photos did use dead, pinned specimens on trees because they were taking pictures for the textbook. Obviously, they're staged pictures. Wait, did you think that the picture on the McDonald's menu of the Big Mac was actually a Big Mac? Did you think they actually took a picture of French fries instead of using plastic to model the French fries and then take the picture? I don't understand. The phenomenon is real. The color shift happened whether or not anyone photographed it. Documented in wild populations over decades, observed independently by multiple researchers, happened in multiple industrial areas worldwide, reversed when pollution controls were implemented. That's just the fact.
Right here. Where's this book used at, brother? It's not used anymore. Peppered moth. It's still in the new books, though. Evidence for evolution. Those are dead moths glued on a tree, because after 40 years of watching, they found a grand total of 2 moths on the trees.
That's just nonsense. It's just a flat-out lie.
2 out of, let's see, what's 95% of 2? Wow, I have to do some figuring on that one. They still keep it in the textbooks, though, as evidence for evolution.
Well, it is evidence of evolution.
What's the Tulsa Zoo doing, having a peppered moth display? I mean, this is a zoo, for heaven's sake. Why do they push evolution in a zoo?
Because evolution is real? It's like a real component of the world around us?
Get the book,
Like, obviously?
Icons of Evolution, if you want a whole lot more on the history of this peppered moth idea. But they tell the kids, we're going to learn to think critically. Boys and girls, do you think humans are still evolving?
Yes, absolutely. It's actually been slowed a lot by modern medicine and things like that. But yeah, we are still evolving, 100%.
What kind of question is that? That's one of those questions like, have you stopped beating your wife yet?
Wait, how is it a question like that?
Wow, let me think. If I say yes, I'm admitting I did. If I say no, I'm still doing it. Did you know it's possible for the question to already have a built-in assumption?
Yeah, I mean, that's the point of that question.
Look at that question. Do you think humans are still evolving? What's the built-in assumption?
Humans evolved. Yes, that is correct. They did, or are.
That humans evolved. Now, how's a Christian kid supposed to answer that for homework for Monday? I would say, teacher, this question is poorly written. It assumes evolution has happened when it has not. It's like asking the question, why are elephants orange? Boy, no, there's a tough one. Why are they orange anyway? They're not orange? This is not learning to think critically. This is a Soviet-style indoctrination.
Oh, give it a fucking rest, dude. His obsession with communism is bizarre to me.
Brainwashing question. And when the kid gets done taking this class, he's going to think he knows how to think. But he doesn't. He knows how to be told what to believe, and he never understands how it happened to him. That's not thinking critically. Then they tell the kids,
I mean, the unit is on evolution. They are teaching about evolution and how it works, obviously. So they're going to build a set of premises and then ask questions around those premises.
we've got evidence for evolution from homologous structures. Wow, what's that mean? Yes, boys and girls. Did you know you have 2 bones in your wrist, and they're called the radius and the ulna? Pretty cool. And did you know the alligator has 2 bones in his forelimb? And look at this, they're called radius and ulna.
Oh my God, dude, really? This is like arguing that whales don't have hip bones or legs. They do have hip bones and or legs. And Kent Hovind, I would just about guarantee, is about to argue that they don't.
See that? That proves we are related.
Because, of course, whales are mammals. They lived on land and eventually crawled into the sea and adapted to it. A lot of the sea creatures that are around today never crawled out of the sea. But whales were once similar to hippos in that they actually lived on land, and then they started to adapt more and more to going into the ocean because that's where they were getting their food and stuff like that, and they just never crawled out again. But as vertebrates, as mammals, they have hip bones and legs and feet. That's absolutely true. And it's not about the fact that we named them radius and ulna. They are actually hip bones and feet, which would be tibia and fibula in this case, but because those are the leg bones and femur.
That's what they're going to tell them. Homologous structures provide evidence that these animals evolved from a common ancestor. It's found in just about every textbook. You got it in these other ones up here, I'm sure, don't you, Steve? Homologous structures as evidence for evolution. They descended from a common ancestor, textbook says. Think critically. The bones are the same, boys and girls. See, that proves we're related. Evolved from a forelimb of a common ancestor. This textbook says, comparative anatomy provides further evidence of evolution. The commonalities suggest that these and other vertebrate animals are all related. They probably evolved from a common ancestor. This is a lie. They probably have a common designer. You know, the different bones in different animals come from different genes on the chromosomes.
Like, I brought up the whales' legs and feet bones or whatever because that's commonly used by creationists. He didn't bring that up, but it's a pretty dead to rights argument. They are mammals and they have leg bones. You know, that's just how it works. here's what we actually find in whales. They have pelvic bones and small leg bones, femurs, embedded in their body wall near where their hind legs would be. These aren't external, they're inside the whale's body, serving no locomotion function. They are vestigial, if you will. Here's how we know they're leg bones. We don't just name them whatever we want. They're identified by position in the body, where the hind legs attach in other mammals. Attachment points connect the same way that pelvic and leg bones do in terrestrial mammals. Bone structure, same internal anatomy as mammalian leg bones. Developmental biology, whale embryos actually start developing hind limb buds that then regress. Homologous structures, as he mentioned a minute ago, match bone for bone with land mammal skeletons. They do not match with fish skeletons. The whales don't. They match identically with mammal skeletons. This guy is a colossal joke.
They're not homologous to begin with, okay? And even if they were, that still wouldn't prove common ancestor. Proves a common designer. The same designer made them all. Did you know the lug nuts from a pond?
Wait, so did a different designer design the design fish? Is that what happened? A different designer designed fish than mammals? Was it Michael the Archangel that designed the fish and then like Gabriel designed the mammals and stuff? Is that what you're saying?
Pontiac will fit on a Chevy. You can go out in the parking lot and try it. They will. That proves they both evolved from Honda 14 million years ago. No, it's true many animals have a similar four-limb structure. That's a good observation. I agree.
That's not what's being argued. That's not the case. A similar four-limb structure, that's not what's happening here. He has to know that, right? He has to know he's completely full of shit here. No different than the climate change argument. Yeah, 100%. I'm pretty sure that Kent Hovind has spoken about climate change and believes that it's fake, of course. If humans survive global warming, it's been put forth that we'll be shrinking as much as a foot in height to deal with the higher temperatures. Really? I have not heard that. That's interesting. Humans are going to survive, I believe. I'm very, very confident that humans will survive pretty much anything. I believe there could be a full-on nuclear holocaust and humans would survive. I mean, it would, it would be rough. It would be difficult. Our supply chain would completely collapse and everything else. But I believe that we would make it. We would be okay as human beings. We're like roaches. You can wipe most of us out, but you can't wipe out all of us, in one man's humble opinion.
They say they must have had a common ancestor. Oh, bad conclusion. Then they'll say, this helps prove we all came from a rock. Well, now you really have got a bad conclusion there. Then they tell the kids, we have evidence from development. Now, this one makes me angry. So I'm going to try to stay calm while we talk about this. Is probably one of the most dangerous lies in the textbooks.
One of the most dangerous, huh? Okay.
By the way, guys, check out my new shop, owenmorgan.com/shop. I have a bunch of really cool designs on there.
Calm down now. Okay, I'm ready. This textbook says the similarity between the early stages of development of many different animals helped convince Darwin that all forms of life shared common ancestors. Darwin considered this the strongest class of facts in favor of his theory.
Like, I couldn't possibly care less about Darwin. Like, why is he talking about Darwin so much anyway? What does he have to do with literally anything? He's not a deity to me. He's not a deistic figure. I really do not care. What I care about is facts. And he uncovered factual information, incredible factual information that we use today to understand the world around us, really.
This was the best evidence Darwin knew of for his theory. The guy who made up this dumb idea is named Ernst Haeckel. Haeckel called this idea we're about to share with you the biogenetic law, which means as animals develop inside the mother, they go through the stages of evolution. All you got to do is memorize the word farm, F-A-R-M, fish, amphibian, reptile, mammal. That's the way they say it happened. The phrase they had for it back then was ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny. Wow, what's all that mean? Well, ontogeny is the growth of the baby. It goes through stages, okay? Recapitulates means it reenacts or does over again. Phylogeny is the evolutionary sequence. This Irish textbook says, the presence of fish-like structures in embryos of different species shows these animals have evolved from fish.
Okay, I don't know what this is about or what they're talking about. It doesn't actually sound correct to me. Ernst Haeckel, 1860s to 1900s, drew embryo comparisons and promoted ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny, the idea that embryos replay evolutionary history. His drawings were somewhat idealized and simplified, and they were exaggerated. They exaggerated the similarities. They made them look more alike than they really are. His specific drawings and the recapitulation theory were debunked over 100 years ago by scientists themselves. This is what the textbooks actually said. They didn't claim we look like fish embryos in the sense that Hovind is suggesting. The actual claim was early vertebrate embryos share similar features, which is true. Pharyngeal arches, not gills, but structures that develop into gills in fish, jaws, and ears in humans. Notochord, primitive backbone. Tail-like structure becomes our coccyx. Similar body segmentation. And here's what's actually true. Vertebrate embryos do show remarkable similarities early on. Pharyngeal arches and pouches. In the fish, they develop into gills. In humans, they develop into the jaw, so on and so forth. Modern evolutionary developmental biology shows that embryos don't replay evolution exactly. Recapitulation is wrong. But they do share developmental programs inherited from common ancestors. Early development is more conserved. Later stages diverge more. So there you go. There's the answer. His drawings were a little bit exaggerated, but aren't even used anymore anyway, so I don't see why it even matters. But the core point is the same anyway.
The basic pattern of fish development. It's as if the embryo retains a memory of its origins and starts to copy them during its development. That's the ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny. Now, the idea that sick mind Freud relied on.
Sick mind Freud? Okay, that's one name for him, I suppose.
Was the idea that ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny. That is, the development of the individual recapitulates the evolution of the entire species. This is stupid and dangerous.
Stupid and dangerous, okay.
Tell the kids the embryo, the baby growing in the mother, has gills like a fish.
Well, they have structures that eventually form into gills for fish, yes. Or the jawbone for humans.
Gills? That's a lie. Those are not gill slits. Those little folds of skin you see on the embryo grow into bones in the ear and glands in the throat.
Yes, correct. That's correct. Did anybody ever argue otherwise? I don't know what you're talking about here.
Never have anything to do with breathing. My uncle had 5 or 6 chins and he couldn't breathe through any of them but the top one. Okay?
People are fat. That is so funny.
They're not gill slits. Ernst Haeckel said the turning point in his thinking was when he read Darwin's book in 1860. See, Darwin's book was printed in English in 1859. The next year, it was printed in German, 1860.
Oh, here comes the Hitler argument. Oh my God, dude.
Next year, it was printed in German, 1860. Haeckel was a German embryology professor. He read the book and said, wow, what a great theory. If only we had some evidence. Well, 9 years later, they still had no evidence. So Haeckel
For evolution?
decided to help out. He was going to make some evidence. Haeckel took a drawing of a dog and a human embryo. He was an embryology professor, you know, and he lied. He faked the drawings. He changed them and made them look exactly alike to prove they're related. He just is a bald-faced lie.
Okay, well, let's find out. Hang on, let's see. In the 1860s and 70s, Ludwig Rudemeyer accused Haeckel of using one and the same, moreover incorrectly interpreted woodcut, quote-unquote, presented 3 times with different labels as embryos of dog, chicken, turtle. So the accusation was that Haeckel used the same image for multiple species, not that he completely fabricated a dog embryo from nothing. Historical research shows that Haeckel drew his embryos using works from other anatomists like Theodore Bischoff's dog embryology as partial models. He did draw dog embryos, but he exaggerated similarities between species, made them look more alike than they really were. It says here, modern historians of science like Robert Richards and Nick Hopwood found no evidence of intentional fraud. Haeckel drew recklessly compared to his peers, but there's no evidence of dishonest intent. And aside from that, so what? Okay, this does not invalidate evolution.
Okay. Haeckel made giant posters of his fake drawings and traveled all over Germany and converted the people to believing in evolution, which led to the next obvious question. Hey, if evolution is true, I wonder which race of humans have evolved the farthest.
Okay, racial ideology is fake. Racial ideology is not real. It's pseudoscience. It was always pseudoscience.
A species evolves, not a subclass of one species.
Yeah.
So chickens will evolve, not brown chickens versus like white chickens or whatever. Chickens with brown fur versus chickens with white fur is what I mean. White feathers.
Right. And this whole racial ideology where race is where humans have different races, this is completely fabricated. Different races don't exist. There's one race, the human race.
Guess who the Germans thought it was? Yeah, we'll talk more about that later. Now, on top are Haeckel's fake drawings. Underneath are the actual photographs of these animals. He lied. His own university held a trial and convicted him of fraud. He
As far as I can tell, that's not true.
said at the trial, "I should feel utterly condemned were it not that hundreds of the best observers and biologists lie under the same charge."
Let's find out if this is real, because he likes to stick quotes in here that are just like not true at all, that are just completely made up. There was no university court trial. He was accused of miscopying standard figures, and supporters accepted his defense that his pictures were ordinary schematics like his colleagues used in classrooms. Theologians exploited the forgery charges to discredit him, but there's no evidence of an actual university court trial or conviction in the historical record, so this is just made up. The source here cites Dr. Edward Blick Engineering, an engineer, not a historian. This is a third-hand claim with no primary source documentation at all. So is this even real? Is this person even real? I have no idea. Historians found no such confession. Historian Robert Richards, who wrote a comprehensive intellectual biography of Haeckel, found no support for claims of intentional fraud. If this dramatic courtroom confession existed, historians would have documented it. I'm getting this from the University of Chicago website, by the way. What actually happened? In 1868, Rudemeyer criticized Haeckel's drawings. In 1875, Wilhelm His is the guy's name. In 1875, Wilhelm His condemned alterations. In 1908, there were more accusations. These were scientific criticisms in publications, not court trials. Haeckel defended himself by saying his drawings were schematic teaching aids, which is totally legitimate. The hundreds lie under the same charge part. This portion appears in creationist literature, but is suspiciously vague. If Haeckel really said this in court, where's the court transcript? Why do only creationist sources cite this? This is completely made up. This is one of those sources. This is an example of a source that's fabricated out of nothing. Like, entirely too often in these documents or in these PowerPoints or whatever, things are just completely fabricated out of the ether, out of absolutely nothing. It is wild to me how comfortable Kent Hovind is with just making things up whole cloth, just fabricating information out of nothing.
This biogenetic law is as dead as a doornail. It's not true. But it can't be taken out of the textbooks for some reason. It's been proven wrong since 1875, and they still keep it in the books. It's still used in this book, Evolutionary Analysis, college textbook, 1998 edition, used at University West Florida, the exact same chart of Ernst Haeckel.
Again, these charts were not inaccurate. They were slightly embellished, and I'm not even sure they're using Haeckel's chart here. What book did he say? I mean, he literally just made up a quote, whole cloth. I'm having a hard time. I'm having a hard time believing a word out of the dude's mouth.
That's only been proven wrong since 1875. Okay, I know it takes a while to get textbooks up to date, but
so does he deny that there are similarities between different like embryos or whatever? Is that what he's saying? He thinks that there are not similarities between embryos?
it's long enough. I think 130 years, they ought to be able to get it out by now, don't you think? Okay. More about the gill slits in this book here, Icons of Evolution. Darwin's theory, his book came out 1859. He predicted they would find evidence. 1869, Haeckel faked the drawings. 1875, it was proven wrong. But it's still in textbooks used all over the planet.
These are the same people that told us that the world is flat and the war versus Japan would be won by Christmas, right? Okay. It is the same. Like, young Earth creationism is definitely as absurd as flat Earth. Absolutely. Just as absurd. And the war would be won with Japan by Christmas. I'm not sure what that's referencing, but yeah, absolutely fucking insane. I mean, hecking insane. Absolutely honking nuts. I don't know what the HE double hockey sticks he's talking about here.
Can't believe you'd swear.
I know.
What an evil person. Guys, condemn him.
I should be condemned.
2004 textbook, still has it. 2005 textbook, and I pronounced it wrong as Chickasha, not Chickashaw, Chickasha, Oklahoma. I got corrected during the break. Still teaching the baby has gill pouches. Notice, for example, gill pouches, okay? Gill slits on the embryo.
Well, it's the structure that will eventually turn into gill slits. Yes, that's absolutely true.
They're teaching this in textbooks all over the world.
Well, that's because it's true.
It's only been proven wrong since
It
1875.
hasn't been proven wrong. Oh my God.
But even then, like, what does proving it wrong do for you? You can come up with some godly explanation. Like, you don't have to sit here and just flat out lie, say that this doesn't happen or this doesn't exist when we have actual proof. Like, you could find some other explanation. Don't just lie and say, nuh-uh, you're wrong, nuh-uh, because I said so.
It really blows me away when he like fully makes up quotes, like completely made up quotes. Just are shocking to me. I don't know why. But it's just wild.
Yeah, I never understand that either when they just make up quotes, because it's very simple to take a quote and like twist it, which
Yeah.
you shouldn't be doing, but at least then you have a quote there that you
Plausible deniability.
Yeah. You can't like sit there, make up a quote and have someone look it up and realize, "Oh, they're lying." Like, at least the quote exists.
Yeah, absolutely. But he's just making things up completely. It's just insane.
Get it out of the book. Tear the page out. I mean, it's a no-brainer. Tear out the page. It's not true. Here's a junior high textbook telling them it has embryo has gill slits. This one says, similarly, humans and fish embryos resemble each other because humans and fish share a common ancestor. These similarities provide evidence that these three animals evolved from a common ancestor, tiny gill slits. Gill slits on the human embryo.
Again, they are the structures that eventually turn into gills on fish. Yes. Okay, it would be great to be able to breathe underwater. Someone is just talking at you, so you just walk into the sea and don't return. I
Such
know,
a
I'm
good
so
plan.
down. Yes, I'm in.
I don't think he understands that when they say gill slits, they don't mean embryos have gills. Like, that's not what we're saying. We're not saying humans have gills or embryos have gills. We're saying that it turns into gills in fish later on.
This guy is. Are you familiar with him or no?
Vaguely. Like, yes, but not like
I've been
a
covering
lot.
him for many, many
Yeah.
years. He went to jail for tax fraud a long time ago, where he was basically for 30 years. Okay, he's very, very famous and made like millions and millions of dollars. Very wealthy and never paid a dime in taxes ever. Never even filed taxes ever in his entire life. And the IRS caught up with him and said, "Why didn't you file taxes?" They told him how much he owed, because that's what they do eventually. And he just refused to pay them. Said, "I don't make any money, so you're out of luck." And he absolutely did. And then he engaged in structuring, which is where if you withdraw $10,000 from a bank account, they have to like turn that information into the IRS. You basically have to put down what you're using it for, just so that they know. He was using it to pay employees under the table so nobody was paying taxes, neither Hovind nor the employees. And he was doing it, he was withdrawing $9,900 each time so they didn't have to report it. And yeah, that's structuring, and it's very, very illegal.
Mm-hmm.
And the IRS finally caught up with him and sent him to prison for 10 years. He sat in prison for 10 years for structuring and for lying and everything else. I'm trying to remember what the point was here. Anyway, he's a colossal scumbag. I accidentally put his social security number on a YouTube video once.
Really?
Yeah, I had a court document about him, and I was reviewing the court document, and it had his social security number on it. I had to blur it after the fact. I uploaded the video and blurred his number out. Anyway, point is, he's a complete scumbag. He's just like a very bad person, and it's safe to assume anytime you ever talk about this guy or listen to anything he's saying that it's not him misunderstanding, but straight up lying. He's outright lying, intentionally fabricating information to trick people into believing things incorrectly. That's who Hovind is. Anyway, let me know what you think about it in the comments. Absolutely nuts.